Hey everybody. Figured I'd start the stream early and, let people stream in when it's supposed to start, which is in another 7 minutes. Went back and watched the beginning of the last stream, and it was nice having a little music at the beginning, so I'm going to play my brother's album again. Gotta plug your friends, right? Besides, it's good opening music. How's everybody's weeks going? Much better as of today. I think I certainly share that sentiment. Oh boy. Gotta get my head in it, get focused. Spent yesterday recording a talk for FOSDEM, which should be airing either this Sunday or next Sunday. Should probably know because I'm supposed to be there. So that's why we didn't have a stream yesterday. So now I gotta get my head back in here. If I'm remembering right, where we left off was working on the threaded comments here, and trying to update this modal so that it allows you to click on any comment and sort of like make that the focus of the modal, so then you can add a reply to it and things like that. Can I tell you what the talk is about? I can. The talk is called Decentralization and Decency, and it's the kind of covering the same material that I talked about in the blog post that started the Citizen Project, and expanding on a lot of those ideas. And so, yeah, hopefully y'all will find it interesting and touches pretty directly to what we're working on with Citizen here. I have the recording, and I would share it with y'all if I thought that wouldn't be kind of messed up, but seeing as I recorded it for FOSDEM, I think I need to give them, first airing rights. Okay, so yeah, gonna do something real quick, and then we'll dive into some code. But for everybody just joining, share how you're doing. Say hi in the chat. All right. Time to dive into some UI code. So we were working on the thread view here, and we need to update it so that it can handle loading up not just for a post, but for a post or a comment. and correctly assemble the thread when that happens. So some of the code that I tore out originally, I actually need to bring back in, which is never fun, but that's what we gotta do. So we'll start here. We'll rename that subject URL. And so the subject URL will be what we're looking at. And then in the load, what we have to do is basically we have to detect what the subject is, and then from there choose how to load correctly. And the way that we have structured our URL schemas means that we actually could look at the URL and detect what it is, but that is expecting URLs to have a consistent schema. So we gotta consider if that's what we want to do here. But I kind of think, yeah, I think we do want to do it that way. So we're gonna do get subject schema URL, and let's take a look at our strings code for parsing here. We can reuse that. So then in the loading code, we can then just look and see, all right, if it's a post, we have one behavior, and if it's a comment, we have another. So we fetch the comment first, and then we load the post by looking at the comment's subject URL. So we do this dot post dot get, this dot API dot post dot get, and then we do comment dot value dot subject URL, and then we can load the thread in the same way. And then what we will need to do is indicate which one is highlighted, which I think we can handle actually elsewhere. So we'll have to think about some decisions around how to deal with structuring the UI, but let's make sure this part of the code is working first. And we can do that by looking at the subject URL versus the individual replies and give them the highlight class if they're the currently highlighted one. Okay, compilation failed. Right, because I tried to pass in a URL there as opposed to doing this.subject URL. Also need to update our usages here, which would be in the view thread. And we want to change that to subject URL. Okay, and then maybe a little bit more of this to do. Let's see, view thread. So on view thread, we just need to modify this to do subject URL. Okay, that should do it, so let's find out. Subject schema URL is not defined. I probably forgot to put this on it. Indeed I did. Okay, so is this thing getting highlighted or not? Doesn't appear to be. So it looks like that logic is not working yet. So GrokChain asks, thank you for the compliment. How do I sustain funding to keep working on what I do? The answer is just barely. And if you're particularly interested in that question, check out the link to the Patreon. The company that Beaker was created under was able to raise some angel funding. We've unfortunately burned through most of it. Because as you all know, we've been around for quite some time. And so, actually right now I'm fortunate enough to be getting a little bit of help from my family. And I consider myself enormously lucky to be able to even lean on that. But they feel like, thankfully they kind of believe in what we're trying to do here, and they understand that we have a time limit on it if things don't work out. So, you know, if it can't continue for long this way, but for now, we're surviving. Appreciate that. I need to update the Patreon's reward structure because it was originally built around the idea that we were going to have Uplink as our main project, and okay. So the view thread event doesn't seem to be firing. When I click on these, so let's find out why that is. Perhaps it is firing and I'm just not catching it. That would be certainly possible, but it should be getting hit right there, so let's see what's going on there. Okay, so it is getting hit, but loading is not occurring. Ah. And I've got some coffee brewing, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I just think I need to do this request update. Okay, there we go. And you can see that blue indicating the highlight. So that logic is now working. Great. Did I leave any logging in there? Let's see. I think we're good. So now, what we want to do, we should modify this rendering here, because the subject isn't always going to be the post. The subject may be an individual comment. And we should be deciding a couple of things. We could do the Twitter style thing where when you click on an individual comment, it sort of collapses the view so that the parent comments get sort of threaded down in a linear history, and then replies stay in a non-linear thread. That's one option. Or we could do it where it all stays threaded. And keeping it threaded might be a better approach because, you know, you may want to reference the other comments. But also that linear collapse can help kind of review the history leading up to it. So let's what do we want to do? Well, it'll be easier to do. Frankly, it'll be easier to implement without with just keeping it all in a thread view. So why don't we stick with that? And I'm going to remove this comments header here. Okay. And what we need to do is have the comments, add a comment box show up underneath the currently highlighted item. So we'll do that by doing like if this dot subject URL is the post, then we'll render it. And then likewise, in the actual comment rendering, we'll do the same thing. And we hit a bug. Post may not be loaded yet, so let's stick that right there. Okay. So that's interesting. Let's see what turning off the no borders attribute does to the way it's rendered. Right. Okay. So really we want this to be right here then. And we obviously need to clean up all this CSS. But the logic is now there. So that's looking good. Let's see what a reply looks like. User database not found. That's worrisome. We'll have to get into that in a second. And the reply was technically made, so that's even more worrisome. And I'm not seeing any threading, but that may not be a big problem here. Yeah, that's not a problem with the... Oh no, that's... So we got some bugs. So the threading being wrong isn't a big deal because I just haven't updated the comment box to handle parent comments yet. So that's not a problem, but certainly whatever that user database not found, that's a concern, so we'll have to dig into that. Alright, let's get the rendering all set first. So, let's wrap the comment box. Gonna turn off my notifications. Okay, and then the comment box, we need to put a margin of what, 10 pixels on it? Seems right. Messed it up. Not plural, singular. Okay, some of that looks right. Some, but not all, to be sure. Looks like the subject needs a margin of its own. Okay, getting closer. I should get the threading working on the data structure first so that I could properly style how to do the threaded comments. We're going to wind up with some interesting things here. You know, this is a kind of an odd form for threading, so they're going to start getting really narrow. But we will address that when we get there. So let's fix the comment box's ability to do parent comments. We'll just call that the parent URL as opposed to the parent comment URL. Alright, now let's try to do our first real reply. Still got that user database error. But let's see if the reply worked. It did. And it looks like we do, in fact, have some threading behaviors already at play, which is good. little hard to do the styling on this stuff without actual proper avatars being rendered. The broken image is certainly ugly to look at. And it looks like the comment box, anytime it's underneath a, once it's underneath replies, it always needs to have a padding on the left of 44 pixels by the looks of it. Okay, that's starting to look better. Now our highlighting obviously needs a little love, because that little light blue background is not really clear enough about what's being highlighted. Might also be a good idea to change the URL. Gonna go grab my coffee. Okay. So let's look at how to highlight this. How do they do it on Twitter? Let me take a look at that real quick. They just render it big. I'll go ahead and get a few more replies in the thread so that we can see what that looks like. White space isn't being preserved. We'll need to change the rendering to make it so that the new lines are being respected. There's also not really enough padding, I feel like, in the way this thing looks. The edges feel kind of close, but I may not worry much more about this particular UI and instead just stay focused on some implementation details and then come back to this sort of thing. You know, for instance, it might be a good idea to figure out why we're getting an error whenever we try to make a post. Let's look into that. So the composer emits a publish event. Hey Miguel, welcome back to the stream. Well, let's see if that's where the error is being thrown. So that's not where the error is being thrown. So something in the reaction to posting the comment is causing the error. We have this publish reply event. Is that being used still? Not currently. May come back though, but that's not our problem. This is our problem. So let's thread what's occurring. We should hit that, which should take us to load, which should then just be doing loading this.subject URL. So that shouldn't be, you know, controversial. Seems fine. But this load is failing for some reason. It's failing with a user database not found. Why on earth would that be the case? Because when I click here, the load logic isn't actually running. How is that possible? Oh, huh. So it's possible our load logic was actually always wrong because this didn't get changed. There it goes. So it's failing to, oh, okay. This is because the comments code, comments API is not set up like the post API is yet. It's not able to take in a URL. So we need to update the getter to do the same thing, which is this code right here. And it's on the get. Except that should be comment. There we go. You might ask whether there's any merit to going through the load, given that it's causing a much more jarring UI, but it will cause it to fetch the most recent information, so. We can always tune that UI load performance later. It's not the prettiest thread viewing UI. There's definitely some change that needs to occur here. Kind of wondering if we ought to be treating comments and replies, comments and posts as different data types. They are different data types, but I'm wondering if they should have different, like, constraints. But, I don't know. Again, we'll worry about that another time. let's make sure that the replies no longer bug out. We're good. Should probably focus your reply after it's been made. I really ought to fix that kind of flash of the UI when that happens. I don't know, it's a little hard to evaluate this UI. One thing we can definitely do is move this comment box into a better spot, which I'm going to do now. The comment box actually should be right here. Yeah, that feels better to me. Kind of inside the comment that you, or the post that you'd be replying to. Yeah, I think I like that a little better. Okay, this is getting a little nicer to look at, for sure. Again, could probably rework some of that highlighting style. Hey Michael, good to see you. Michael Mullins is a friend of mine in town. Been a good friend gosh, for what, 4 years now? No, it's been very supportive, very, very supportive of all the work we do here. Okay, it's interesting. Not sure I'd say I'm, 100% in love with it, but it's not awful. Been a very, very long time. Yes, I don't necessarily hate this. It's currently doing the Twitter kind of thing where the comments and the post are both structured in a similar fashion. Which I've got some mixed feelings about. If we expect the comments to show up in the feed, then this is the right way to go. But if we don't expect that, then it's not really the right solution. And I'm not really ready to say how that's going to play out, so I think I'm going to leave it as it is for now. Why don't we fix that highlighting style? I feel like no, that's definitely not the action. Let's roll with that for the moment. It's not great. It'll need to change, but a lot of this is still a little uncertain. Yeah. So let's jump over to our common.css and add these colors. Let's apply the same behavior to the initial post in the thread as well. Okay. Still want to try to fix that kind of flash of the load, which we might be able to solve by just not doing a reset on load. Yeah, that's better. One thing that's sort of nice here is how quickly all this is loading. I mean, we're talking about, I know it's a small data set and it's coming off of my local device, but like that's a Still pretty fast response time for everything. That's a good thing to be optimistic about. If we were seeing anything worse, we'd need to be concerned. I wonder if there's, one downside of using WebSockets is that we don't get to have the nice profiling information. We can see the messages though, which is pretty cool. That is pretty neat to be able to see the messages like that. And we can manually track, how long this is taking. So like, there was the initial load, and it all happened within the span of less than 100 milliseconds. So that's good. Like the actual get thread, for instance. Yeah, that was, what? 50 milliseconds-ish. That's good. 33 milliseconds is the single frame in a 30 FPS, so it's sort of like 2 frames-ish. Okay, that's committable. I think I need to trigger thread feed reloads on post. But we've got some more questions to sort through here. Plenty more. We got questions to answer about all kinds of things. Right now we're just loading the user's feed and not giving any thought to loading everybody that they follow, nor any thought to loading the featured feed, or how that's constructed. So we could start on that. We could start on, it might be time to start a to-do list. Why don't we do that? Let's open up our Scratchpad. And we'll just stuff this at the top. Our list of to-dos. So we have the user profile view. We have the featured feed view. We have the user follows view. We'll call this the personalized feed view. We have notifications. We have follows and unfollows. We have search, God help us when that comes along. We have avatars. We have post media embeds, which includes images, more than one, videos, audio. Could do files, but I'm inclined not to at this particular moment, but we could certainly do something like just general files. And then there's links. There's also other content such as posts or comments. Which would be sort of our equivalent of retweets. It's a pretty hefty to-do list, to be sure. Doesn't even begin to touch on how to deal with federation. for that matter, it doesn't touch on how the featured feed view is going to be constructed. Well, I'm going to use the bathroom real quick, and then we'll dive into one of these. So Michael asked, how are you planning to handle videos, whole file at once, or some type of stream? For the actual playback, we should be able to stream them. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So one of the things I'm having trouble choosing anything to dive into. I guess I'll just kind of talk freewheeling about the different pieces that we have in front of us here. So for the featured feed view, we need to introduce logic, some kind of rules within the server that the server can configure that will determine how something gets featured or not. Probably the first thing we'll do, our sort of MVP of that, will simply be to add any post by a member to it, and then we'll have to design how the rules get specified. But the personalized feed view, that's, you know, showing who you're following. And the interesting question around that is whether we need to produce a secondary index to do that. If so, we can't just do that off of the user database, because a secondary indexing process can't be run on something that's not guaranteed to be controlled by the server. So it's possible we need to put in the public server database, or perhaps we put that in the private server database, a secondary index for each user. It's a little challenging, but not impossible. Same story with notifications. May need to be the same thing. For follows and unfollows, no complexity there. Search may need to be something like a SQLite. I don't really want to use the Hyper-V for that. We can, but that seems like it would be certainly compelling to be able to put the search index in the public server Hyper-V, because then, you know, you'd be able to run a search against the peer-to-peer index. But we don't have the tooling around that yet, and I don't want to build a search engine from scratch. Avatars and post media might be a good thing to hit next. We need to introduce basically blob tables. And then we'll need to... Cat's making a fuss. So we'll need to make a post media table type and build tooling around that, and then produce our different tables for it. Wouldn't be a terrible way to go next. Well, maybe we start with the user profile view, and then that'll get us to the point that we're ready to build controls for our setting your avatar, and then we can set that up. That might be good. Okay, let's dive into the user view. So we go to our view, and we need to update that to look like the index page, but we don't need the VS loader anymore. We can remove that code. Always fun to delete code, so let's do that real quick. Make sure that's not being included anywhere else. Kitty cat. This can go away now. Kitty is making a fuss. All right, we need to add to our build the user view. Okay, now that's happening. And then in the user item, that's just need to update the tag. And why don't we go ahead and nuke that VS code. Well, we'll just leave that. You never know when that'll come into play. Alright. And so now we need to design this guy. So, first things first, we get rid of the post. We could do the whole thing like tweet at this person, but cat, you're laying down in the danger zone. I'm kind of inclined to remove the composer on the user view. Yeah, so let's do that. Why is this thing taking up space even though the height is 0? Oh, it's because it's got a margin. And even then it's not quite flush. Why is that? That's annoying. Why isn't this thing being... Spacing is weirdly off. Oh, wait a minute. May have just gotten an indication. There it is, that's why. Alright, the margin should be only at the bottom, not... Where's that getting set? That's inside the feed view. Okay, so then that's still leaving that result, that reloader, to cause that spacing problem, but then that's correct now. Dirty CSS and JS user. It's true. I won't deny. Lit element made me this way. I wasn't always born this way. So now we got to design our profile pages. I feel like it's an opportunity to do something a little different than like Twitter does. Like, you know, we could just do a little card right here with their profile picture and their bio. But it would be cool to do a big banner one. Let's do that. So big vertical banner on, on the side. Could do that, actually. Let's play with it. That's not a bad idea, actually. Let's play with it. Gotta get myself a fake bio line here. Be different, but not. That's always the trick. It's good to be different. Wait, too different. We don't like that. Gotta ride that line. I do enjoy a big old banner up in the top, though. Like, let's keep going here. What's the current width there? 250? Well, this design right now doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to evolve over time, so it just needs to be good enough. But the basic layout, you know, generally we want to be kind of sure about that. So if we did it like this, it would be, this nav right here would be like switching between your comments and your posts and any other kind of, like your follows. We would need to include stats in here, like follower count and things like that. I kind of want to do it this way. So let's give it a shot and let it evolve if we're feeling to do something a little bit different but similar. But for now, I kind of feeling this. I like those big banners personally. Yeah, you know, a problem with our design here. Hey Lars, welcome back to the stream. You know what? I'm going to fix something real quick. I'm tired of looking at these broken images. I'm going to have it go to the default user thumb for the moment. Coffee and mad science streaming. Can't ask for anything more. There we go. No more broken images we have to stare at, so that's good. We got a problem with our UI. Notifications, it needs to be part of the persistent nav, which means that we probably need to move that kind of stuff up into the top. I don't know if my energy level is a little low or what, but I'm just not going to narrate as much as I normally do. Hope that's okay with everybody. Any CSS resources I've found to be familiar or useful. CSS Tricks is actually pretty good. That'd probably be what I recommend. But honestly, I've been doing this for long enough, I don't remember how I learned. What's that gif of, from, hang on. This meme. That's how long I've been, writing CSS. Hey guy, welcome back to the stream. Funny time to come into it. You missed my brother's music. I played it earlier in the stream. I'm a tune hog, I know. I'm not sure exactly what the concern is around copyright strikes. Like, I think you can get away with just playing copyrighted music on YouTube, but then they'll like have a copyright claim occur, which probably would cause like ads to get run, as I understand it, ads to get run on the stream, and then the revenue funneled to the correct people, I think. Which I'd be okay with. I'm not collecting revenue on my stream. Not monetizing that action yet. Of course, I'm not even able to. I don't have enough subscribers. Need yeah, music network with no concerns about all certified for streaming. Yeah, I don't know. I imagine watching me dance around while I'm working is a little goofy. I'm just not seeing myself. YouTube, play copyrighted music on stream. All right, so what's the deal? Now, it looks like you have to have an explicit agreement. Your brand new user shit. I like it. Wonder if there's like a... royalty-free music you could play. To be fair, I actually am not totally against this kind of approach of having, you know, to set up agreements around streaming music. It's a complicated topic. I'm not going to come down hard either way because my livelihood doesn't depend on making any hard claims on this, but I am somewhat sympathetic to music creators wanting to be paid for their music. So, you know, it's a little complicated. if you can, as long as the system is well designed so that people can potentially play your music and do so at a fair price, I don't really mind that copyright is attempted to be enforced. I mean, I ask that people respect terms of my copyrights on my code. And artists' independent right to grant rights around their work. Okay, so we got a follow button. That'll need to be kind of worked on a little bit as we go here. And I think this gives us our starting points, at least enough to start implementing some of the logic, so let's get into that. I'm going to remove all the notifications code from this whole thing. Probably ought to move all the notification stuff into some separate code. Alright, and now on load, we need to look at the URL and pull out the current user. So that'll be pretty simple to do. We do this username Okay, that worked. Okay. That's correct. I set state to undefined just so that the property exists and help me track what I intend to be doing and what I don't intend to be doing. I don't actually think I need to be calling... Do I need to call load explicitly like that? Probably not. Probably not even triggering, because that probably comes from previous code when this was an SPA. Yeah, so I don't need that. Let's start filling out some of these items here. Let's actually call that the user profile, not just user. So this .profile is my own profile, and user profile is who we're looking at. What did we call that? Let's take a look at our schema. Description. And we'll worry about the stats later. So let's remember we'll put to do on both of these. Okay, and then over here in our user controls, we change them depending on if we're looking at the current user, which, let's see if who am I is telling us that. Yeah, I'll set a description once I get the control in there for it. Okay. So if this profile that actually we have to change a couple of things of logic depending on this. So if there's a profile, the user's logged in, and if they're in a logged out state, we gotta show a whole different UI. And then we do this .profile.username equal to this .userprofile.value. Oh no, we do that against this .username. Okay. Alright, so then we do this, nope, click this on click edit profile. I believe we have a modal ready to go. Yep. Let's see what that's looking like. I'm hearing the song Kings and Queens by Ava Max for the first time. It's got a banger of an intro. Pretty good track. This is a good song, I dig it. I've heard the word banger several days in a row now, but I never figured out what it actually means. I guess a hit. It's not just like that it's a hit, but it's like, usually I use it to mean like a song that is good, is kind of the general way that I've always used it. Usually it means it's got a little bit of a dance vibe, perhaps. Or just kind of jams in some way. It's kind of like saying it jams. It's a banger. Live, you learn every day. Okay. Alright. Obviously some CSS is a little funky over here, and I'll have to work on that. Like, what on earth is happening to the spacing on these controls? I see. So I turned off the sort of automatic. At one point I had a top level style setting, box sizing to border box everywhere, and turned that off, and so now the inputs are screwy on that front. A song worth headbanging to. Works pretty good. I think I can get rid of that whole creator edit flow. Yeah, good. Okay. For now, we'll put the default user thumb in there. Okay, eventually we'll add a avatar uploader there. So let's go to the pop-ups CSS here and see what's at play here. The for attribute is specifically used for labels, and it causes a click on the label to sort of route over to the input that it's related to, which is a pretty handy behavior. Yeah. Otherwise, this looks fine to me. Also helps with form accessibility, which I am woefully undereducated on, which isn't great. Yeah. Requires all, it's basically a specialization to be good at accessibility, unfortunately, but it's just sadly kind of how it is right now. Really gotta put in the hours. Oh, what is that font? Is that like the default font for text areas? Yeesh. Hmm. Man, Uptown Funk will apparently never die because it's still in this Apple playlist. Okay. $18 pixels for the font seems a little high still. Yeah, let's take it down to that. Cool. Let's make sure the display name change worked. Yep. That's working. Okay, I'm gonna take a break to use the bathroom. Be right back. Alright. Somebody talking to me here. Alright. So let's go ahead and commit this, and then let's start on the avatar stuff. Okay, so let's open that to-do list back up. And we need to add to this header UI. And now it's time to do blob tables. So the thing I kind of want to do is extend the JSON schema. So let's create a media table definition. And what I'm kind of inclined to do is just do a type binary. But of course, that's not valid JSON schema, which would cause the parsers to throw. So in a way, it's kind of like I can't really be declaring the schema right here when I do that. So that's an interesting question. If I do an extension like this, or if I break the schema spec, do I need to just not identify it? Is there anything else I can use? Well, one option would be to not do straight JSON schemas like we're doing, but instead put them in a wrapper object, which would kind of absolve us of this particular problem because we would have control over the wrapper object. Might not be unwise to do that, frankly, because like let's take a look at the post schema here. We would do something along the lines of so we'd be putting it in a wrapper kind of like that. Yeah, JSON schema is, you know, right, maps to normal JSON types. And the idea of extending JSON schema to include, you know, non-JSON is ill-advised. So I feel like the wrapper would be wise. So we'd be doing something like this, probably. Don't necessarily have to move that information, but seems wise. I mean, like, if we wanted to stick with the kind of conventions that are set out by JSON schema, we could. No, I've been calling them schema tables. Like that. Of course, defining something like that is sort of pointless if we don't go through with all of the organizational artifice that JSON schema does, like schematables.org doesn't exist yet. But probably not unwise to sort of at least leave an opening for ourselves to do it in a similar fashion. Yeah, I feel like the wrapper is probably going to be necessary, because there's also other attributes we may want to be introducing here over time. Things like controlling indexing behaviors or business logic that's can't be specified quite as cleanly. So I'm kind of inclined to move forward with this wrapper object. For now, I'm going to stick with using the same ID structure. And I'm just going to speculatively include that kind of action. Yeah. How about that? VS Code is trying to load the schema. Neat. Okay. Yeah, let's move forward with this. The wrapper object is declaring things like, here, let me finish what I'm doing real quick and then I'll get into that. So the main reason that we're doing this right now is this right here, which can be differing between binary content and JSON content. That's what the wrapper object would be responsible for. So it lets us know whether or not the table includes JSON records or blob records, binary records. What other types might we end up supporting? So it's not really file types, it's sort of table row types. I'm not sure. Probably it's going to just be, I mean, it could in theory be other like things like binary packing forms or like, protocol buffers. Not likely, but that's always a possibility. What else could it be? Well, and the other thing that we might want to introduce into the wrapper is information about like logic or rules around indexing or additional constraints on the behavior of the table. Well, this is tedious. Probably could have tried to find a way to automate these transformations, but that would probably take just as long as manually doing it. Yeah, that's what the $sign schema has been kind of established as a standard for identifying the schema in use. Of course, I may want to consider calling this something more like definition, because I'm now using $schema and just the word schema, and that's not great. So I may need to go back through and change that key name for all these. Oh, last one. Sure, I screwed one of these up, but... Alright, so this key really should be called something else. It should be called like row schema or row definition or JSON schema. Let's call it definition. Now, we're going to end up storing blobs inside of our tables, which we will see if that ends up being unwise. I'm pretty sure it'll... Pretty sure we can make that work. Well, we'll just try it out and then adapt as needed if that doesn't work right. So let's go over to our database stuff. And so for our, actually it's the schemas code we need to jump to. And when we load this definition, we called it definition already. So now it would have definition.definition. We can probably just change that. Let's see how all that's used. Okay, just here. All right, we'll call this, yeah, the 008. Fetch API demands it. So first we'll do if this definition type is JSON, then only in that scenario do we do this. Otherwise, we use our binary validator, where gotta mirror the AJV API here. Okay, and then this definition we should rename to something like schema object, how about? And then that needs to do that. And a simple way to test all this would just be to run our tests. Okay, close. Some kind of failure in votes. Failed at line 48. Right, because I changed this earlier, so this is a bug that came in just in the tests, unrelated to what we're doing right now. Okay, so now let's see how this media database works for us now. Right, so that would be in the user. Alright, and I'm inclined to add a method here that's along the lines of like set avatar. Which will get uploaded in Base64. And then on the user database in media, we're going to use a special key name for it, which will just be avatar. Buffer.from. And then we probably don't need a get avatar, but we do need a route for serving people's thumbs. Serving their avatars, rather. And I'll have some similar logic. So I believe that's rec.params.username, which I should be able to get like that. Yep. And we need to do You know what our media database doesn't have any affordances for is metadata. Like what the file format of the thing is. Huh. We may need like a media metadata table. I definitely can. It's not a problem to get the metadata. I just need to think about how it's being tracked. Let's see if there's a simple way to serve a file in Express. Okay, but what about an individual file? There's simple like send file. Okay. Okay, let's see how that's looking here. No, not you. Static. In the user view, we need to take this right here and change that to this.username avatar. Okay, so that gave us a bad response. 404. Right. Yeah, I'm gonna do it like that. And it's not responding. Let's see why. Something around this. Okay. Path must be absolute or specified. Okay, let's do default user thumb path. Path.join data name. That's a... What is the ES module equivalent of that? It's like import.meta or some nonsense. Import.meta. Yeah, okay. That's a bit of a pain. That sucks. All right, let's try again. Not you. Okay, so that part worked. So now let's get the Base64 encoding of an image. Kind of a big image to be doing this with, but okay. So we'll do a wait. Do we have an API handle? We don't. Let's get that real fast. So I'm going to go back to the user, and I'm just going to stick that API object on the window real quick. What did I name that method? Set avatar. That should be put avatar. Must be logged in. Lovely. Let's try it again. Can't read property 0 of undefined. So that's some kind of bug which emerged in this. Okay, so we didn't even get to... Oh no, it did get to that. Got to that put call. But it, of course the put itself failed, so let's take a look at the database logic for put. Okay, I know what that is. If I go back to the schemas, something about this. How is validate used? Okay, that's what's wrong. Okay, so it put successfully, but the fetch failed. So let's see why that failed. It failed before it was able to load the user database, so that's interesting. Maybe that's not the right, it's probably params. Wow, what happened here? It's doing an assert on the readout and then giving me this holy nonsense. Let's take a look at what it was just trying. Oh, I know why that just failed. We'll get to that, or why it's coming out weird like that. But okay, so inside of here, okay, let's see if that fixes that weird error message output. Indeed it does. Now let's see why that validation failed. Okay, so it got JSON encoded when we did the put, and I'm guessing that's because of a facility in Hyper-V. So let's look into that. Basically, we need to change the value encoding of the table when it's a subtable. Let's see if we're allowed to. Looks like the subtable doesn't currently allow you to change the value encoding for a child, but I wonder if I can, wonder if there's any harm in just manually changing the value encoding. Because it is a sub Hyper-V like object here. Obviously, we want to, if this is something we want to do, we need to make sure that the it'd be better if the sub command allowed you to pass in a value encoding. Yeah, sub should take a value encoding in the options and be able to override. I'm not sure if there's some reason why that's not an option though, so let's see what happens if I manually do it and see if that causes some kind of problem. Which I'm sure there's a chance we wouldn't detect that it creates a problem until we actually arrive at that moment. Alright, so if this.schema.tabledef.type is binary, this.b value encoding equals codex.binary. Can't read property type of undefined. It's this .schema object. Okay, so let's do the put again first. Okay, and now I'll refresh. It did work. Okay. So we'll mark that as a to-do, and I'll file an issue real quick on Hyper-V. And if we're not able to set the value encoding of sub spaces, then our whole approach here may be screwed. But hey, this seems to work. So that's cool. So now one interesting question is whether we want to do it at phrasey avatar, or if we want to do the schema addressing like we do everything else normally. I'm kind of inclined to leave it as is. So let's remove some of these console.logs, and then we're gonna save this update. all the console logs I put in here. It's such a pain to track them back down afterwards. Okay, I think that's all of them, so now we'll just manually review. There's another one. Let's actually break this update up a little bit. So we're not going to add anything related to avatars. First, we should just add the table wrapper behavior and the binary table definitions. Update table schemas to use wrapper object. Support binary tables. And then we need to remove a couple more debug things that we put in there, which was in the front end. That was one of them. What else was it? Okay, that's it. Ooh, we're committing our build files. All right, we'll handle that next. Okay, let's jump to our git ignore. Alright, so now let's get the rest of our code pulling from the avatar stuff. So that was in the post bit here. It would be this.post.author.username and then avatar. Cool, and then in the composer. Cool, cool, cool. Okay. So next up, the avatar uploader. I'm going to take 5 to stretch my legs, and then we'll come back and attack the avatar upload. Be right back. Lars, it says it's censoring your messages. I guess it would be because they have URLs. Yeah, safe bet. What were you trying to link us to? To how level does it input? Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if Hyper-B allows per put value encodings. Doesn't look like it. Oh, possibly. Let's see. Batch. You're such a batch. Where's batch coming from? There it is. Yeah, nope, doesn't look like it does allow you to override at the per put level. So, followed that issue on Hyper-B, and Matt or Andrew will explain what the situation is there for us. And to get that avatar uploader done. Okay. I hate writing this code. I've written it about 1 billion times. I've written versions that have nice cropping tools and things like that. It is the worst. It's a pain every time. So let's see. I need the username. And what else do we need? We need this to be Well, I was asked if I would mind adding in the showcase channel. Yeah, sure. Not a problem. Okay. Hopefully nothing terribly embarrassing in my as I look around. Okay. Well, that control is hideous. But so far so good. Let's copy the CSS now. Okay, making progress. Last step. If we have a uploaded avatar, we gotta include that. In the output, and then that goes back to here. Okay, let's see if that worked. Sort of. There was some kind of error that got thrown in the process, so let's remove the location.reload moment, and then obviously this sizing is wrong. Can't read property display name. Ah. Okay. So now we just need to fix that, which isn't getting... So I did something wrong there because I ought to be seeing the image that's represented by the canvas. I guess we're not currently. So I need to do canvas to data URL. Okay. Yeah, you can definitely do an await with the promise.catch in there. No, let's do it like this. Okay, let's see if that does what it's supposed to. Can't read to data URL of null. Okay, it's sort of working, but it looks like a pretty bad quality degradation. Well, it did work correctly. The cropping is... Let's try with an actual picture of me. Yeah. Now we're cropping it right now to 125 by 125, but I think I'd rather do larger than needed. Let's do 200 by 200. And then back over in the user thing, let's bring back that reload. Yeah, it's a little better. Okay. Okay. Now we got the avatar uploader. Now we can take that off of our to-do list. Hooray. What next? What next? What next? Be kind of logical to get into the post media embeds next, which is challenging. But I might actually go ahead and call it a stream. For me, it was I had other stuff going on earlier in the day. I'm kind of out of juice, but thinking maybe we kick back in tomorrow. Don't think there's any reason why I can't start right in the morning. Don't have anything scheduled. And we'll dive in with the post media embeds. And hopefully by the end of that, we can get images, videos, audio, and links handled by the end. That'll be an interesting set of challenges. We got to figure out how to update the post schema to support those things. And the same is the case for comments. But getting that done would be pretty cool. And then after all that's handled, we might then start on the simple version of the featured feed, and then maybe get some test users in and get follows and unfollows done. And then we can work on the personalized feed. Maybe toss the header UI in there. But yeah, tomorrow let's kick things off with the post media embeds. Cool. All right, thanks everybody for joining. And we'll pick this up tomorrow. Aim for probably 11 in the morning, CST. Great. Have a great night, everybody. Happy Hump Day. That's Wednesday. Don't know if we could say that anymore. But that's an old term for Wednesday. All right. Have a good one.